Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar, SAP HANA Data Management Suite, being presented by Neil McGovern. My name is Jenny Lee, and I'm the Community Manager for the SAP HANA IFG community. Before we begin, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. At the bottom of your screen are multiple application widgets that you can use. All the widgets are resizable and movable, so feel free to move them around to get the most out of your desktop space. You can expand your slide area or maximize it to full screen by clicking on the arrows in the top right corner. If you have any questions during our webcast today, please submit them through the Q&A widget on the top right corner of your screen. We will try to answer these during the webcast, but if a fuller answer is needed or if we run out of time, they will be answered offline and posted along with the recording. Please know we do capture all of your questions. For the best viewing experience, we recommend using a wired internet connection and closing any programs or browser sessions running in background that could cause issues. Webinars are bandwidth intensive, so closing any unnecessary browser tabs will help conserve your bandwidth. Today's webcast is being streamed through your computer, so there is no dial-in number. For the best audio quality, please make sure your computer speakers or headsets are turned on and the volume is up so you can hear our presenter. Some networks cause slides to advance more slowly than others, so logging off your VPN is recommended. If your slides are behind, pushing F5 on your keyboard will refresh the page. You can find additional answers to some common technical issues located in the Help widget at the bottom of your screen. An on-demand version of today's webcast will be available tomorrow on the SAP HANA IFG community. If you're not yet a member, please register at www.saphana community.com. Now I'd like to turn it over to Neil. Neil, thank you so much for joining us today. Please begin.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Neil McGovern, and I'm going to present the customer-facing deck for the HANA Data Management Suite that's going to be launched next Tuesday. So this is going to be launched during Bill McDermott's presentation, so we want to make sure that that we don't blog or talk about this. So this is under NDA and embargo until Tuesday morning at Sapphire. Okay, so I'm going to go through what business challenge we face, the value it brings to customers, and what's in the HANA Data Management Suite, and a little bit about how we're going to market. On the call with me is Laurie Vanerick. She's the Product Manager for HANA Data Management Suite, and she'll be able to help with more technical questions. Okay, so let's get started. Firstly, our legal disclaimer. Everything we're about to say can be reversed, especially if I say it, etc., etc. Okay, so we've been spending the last year or so talking to customers, talking to people like yourselves in many cases, and running focus groups and working with the analysts. And we're trying to uncover what the generic but important data challenges organizations are facing. And basically, the concept of big data, while the term was overused and promised to do everything, including make your toast in the morning, the concepts behind big data have been integrated into most organizations. And those concepts are fairly simple, that data-driven decision-making is better than decision-making based around we always did it this way, or it feels like the right thing to do, and so on. That the more data you bring to the decision process, the better quality of decision you get. That the more data types you can use help increase the accuracy of your decision making. And so the business community has, in the last 5 to 10 years, really embraced the concept of data. And we've seen that with the business intelligence figures and the growth in that area and analytics as a whole. One of the things that's happened though, as business people have got more, spent more time looking at data in a more detailed, more granular fashion, is they've realized that a lot of the data isn't quite as perfect as one would hope. And there's some studies, one done by Forrester and KPMG that came out fairly recently, showed about 70% of business executives didn't fully trust the data that they used to make decisions. That they looked at it and they could see that there was errors, duplications, and so on, missing data values, etc., etc. So there's a trust concern with organizations. Okay, so the big takeaway from the business community was that data is more and more important to decision making, and that the quality of data isn't as good as it should be. Over on the IT side, we created this diagram. Tim Hardy in the UK had spent a lot of time working with data architects in many different organizations, and he probably talked to many people like yourselves as well. And he came up with his general schematic of what the data landscape looked like time and again when he would go and talk to CIOs and their data experts. And we've been using this and showing this to customers, CIO of NBC, the CIO of Disney, major partners, several other customers. And this slide resonates. This is a schematic that looks far too much like what the organizations are facing. And the big takeaway from this is that data fragmentation isn't being addressed. Data fragmentation has been a problem for decades, and you know, there was many reasons for it in the past, and we've done many systems and initiatives to try and address it. But any forward motion we made on data defragmenting our data landscape was really put in reverse in the last 5 years for two major reasons. One, I've mentioned this need for big data, the thirst for data from business analysts, and their increasing sophistication around being able to spin up data marts and do self-service and so on, has meant that IT hasn't been the arbiter, the controller of the data, even on premise. But where it's really confounding people is the fact that with software as a service, we've got cloud-based data sets with the ability for, you know, Joe in accounting to pull out a credit card and start up a Redshift database and upload, say, all the customer information that he wants to analyze onto Amazon AWS or Azure or wherever, has meant that the landscapes are getting more complex, and this is going to be the challenge of our times. The implications of this from a business perspective are fairly large. Firstly, a survey done by IBM at Trust 2018 that Chris Allenbach attended showed that most organizations already have data in 6 to 8 clouds. That's either, you know, clouds like Workdays or SFDC, or alternatively data marts in AWS or Google Cloud and so on and so forth. So most organizations already have a multi-cloud environment to deal with. This is making data less accessible. One of the concerns that we have from both sides, IT and business, was that the fragmentation was making it more difficult for organizations to really grasp a complete picture of their business. And this has impacted how they understand their customers, suppliers, and so on. It also is opening up organizations to substantial legal risks. If you don't know that data exists, you can't secure it. We had a webcast yesterday with Eric Vanderberg, an online security expert, and this was something he was driving home, that you have to understand your data landscape and what's happening to that data if you're not going to open up soft underbellies in your organization. And so these are impacts on today's business, less business understanding, opening yourself up for security risks. But data is going to drive the next generation of applications. The machine learning and AI systems are very data intense. They're also very susceptible to data bias. So if you're missing data, if you feed an AI system and start training it, and you're missing some data because you don't know it exists and it's sitting in some system, that's going to bias the outcome. You'll get lower quality decisions. If your data isn't clean, if there's duplicates, you can imagine how that's going to impact these new systems. So the impact of missing data, not having comprehensive data, dirty data, is going to slow down the next generation, the adoption of next generation applications. So what customers are looking for is more trusted data, data that's comprehensive, in other words, connected. They can connect to all the data in their organization. And also the term, we heard it time and again, data is the new oil. Now that comes, I actually tried to figure out where that came from, that statement, because and I got two. One is because oil is the fuel that runs everything. And the other is because oil companies used to be the largest companies in the world from a market cap basis. But now if you look at the top of the largest companies in the world, it's Google, it's Amazon, so on. So, the term oil, data is the new oil, is trending. There's an issue with that, though. We don't put crude oil in our cars. We put petrol or gasoline, whatever you want to call it, wherever you are in the world. We refine the oil to get a useful product. In the same way, business users are understanding they need data refined so that it's intelligent, so that they can make decisions with it. So it's just not just connected data, it's also intelligent data. Over on the IT side, the organizations are looking for cloud flexibility. This one way to get a CIO to look like a deer in the headlights is to ask them what their cloud strategy is and how it's going forward. This is something that all IT departments are having to address, and concerns are around we don't want to be locked in to one cloud vendor. We don't know which vendors are going to work. We're a multinational, and we use one cloud in one region of the world and another cloud in another region of the world. So this cloud flexibility is important and front of thought in strategic decision making. Also, architectural flexibility. Companies know that a new generation of applications are coming along, but they also know that they've got issues with their existing data landscape, and they don't want to be buying multiple different solutions to those problems. They're looking for a strategic solution that can address their data landscape issues and set them up to be successful with machine learning, AI, and so on. So these are the drivers that we heard from customers, analysts, and so on. There was one other area that came up with some of the analysts, and I want to put this in the back of your mind. This was about the movement of analytic workloads onto transactional data management systems. Gartner called this HTAP, Forrester called it translytical databases. I wish they'd pick one term and stick with it, but the concept is the same. For those of you who are as old as me, you'll remember back to the early 90s when we started bringing report servers in because we couldn't run our management reports at 2 o'clock in the afternoon because it would just bring the transactional systems down. So we had a bug fix. Our bug fix was we created a copy of yesterday's data overnight and let the managers run the reports on the report server. Well, we didn't know that was going to turn into a huge industry called data warehousing and so on. But that bug fix was based on the fact that disk-based databases are slow. If you read Hassell's book from 2011, he already saw this. The ability of in-memory databases to handle both transactional and analytics workloads is going to mean that these data warehouses and application databases are going to merge. They're going to just be one data set. There's so many good reasons for this. Latency, synchronization, you're not storing the same data twice, et cetera, et cetera. Over the next 10 years, we expect to see this really gather. And one of the things about SAP is we own 60% of the world's transactional data. And you're not going to move your applications on top of your data warehouse. You're not taking SAP and S4 and trying to get us to make it run on Teradata. You're going to move those Teradata or Oracle database workloads onto S/4HANA's application database. So over the next 10 years, we see this as being a huge opportunity for SAP. So what we want to be able to say strategically, and we've got a white paper coming up on this, is that S/4HANA, the S/4HANA data landscape, also can handle all of your data warehousing requirements. And so the HANA Data Management Suite is this foundation for the future for both analytics and transactional workloads. Okay, so our vision for the HANA Data Management Suite is that it enables secure, governed, enterprise-class applications and analytics. Okay, we're going to be able to do your analytics and your applications at an enterprise level with one platform. It can run, it's open, so it can run in your existing landscape. And this is an area where we need to convince the market. One of the pushbacks I got time and again was HANA doesn't work with other systems. That's not correct, and something in marketing that we're going to be focusing on. But if we're going to talk to customers about a foundational change in their data landscape, they can't think it's going to be rip and replace. So it's open, and then it's hybrid and multi-cloud enabled. In other words, it can run on-premise, it can run in the cloud. We're not picking a cloud winner. We're not saying, okay, we're going with Google and that's it, or SAP Cloud Platform and that's it. We're going to run on Alibaba, on Microsoft, on Amazon, and so on and so forth. And this is key. And what this delivers to you is the ability to have a single view of your data, trusted, unified landscape. So we're going to do this and reduce complexity with the HANA Data Management Suite. So basically, we're taking this spaghetti picture and we're going to create an abstraction layer that abstracts the consumers of data from the sources of data. Now, one of the points to get across is this is not a 1990s EDW model. This is not lift and shift. We're not saying take all your data and move it into HANA. That causes another deer in the headlights expression from customers as they multiply up the amount of data they've got by 64 gigabyte units of HANA, and we're not telling them that's what to do. What we're saying is that via HANA, we'll either have your data in memory, or we'll know where that data is at query time, and we'll be able to go out and get it. So the HANA Data Management Suite acts as your trusted advisor for data. Okay, and what does that deliver? Well, it helps with business understanding because you get a complete enterprise-wide view of your data. It helps you monitor and model your data. It gives you a central understanding of your metadata, and it enables self-service because users don't need to know the source of the data. They can connect to HANA, and HANA knows, well, I've got this customer information in this data source and that customer information and that, and so it can aggregate it and bring it together for the end user. For the IT department, it helps with security. If you know where your data is and know how it's moving and know what it's doing, you can set up security procedures around it. Obviously, it helps with governance, data lifecycle and so on, and lineage and traceability. And also, we're working on central monitoring and with that as well. In the future, it helps with advanced use cases, and it helps move organizations from a batch decision-making process to a real-time decision-making process. This last line came up from a couple of analysts who say when they talk to SAP customers, HANA customers, and say, what's the big advantage? They go, it's all about real-time. We've gone from batch to real-time. Our customers are telling the analyst community this is one of our big differentiators, that HANA means real-time. Okay, so what is in the HANA Data Management Suite? What products consist of it? Jenny, it's not moving forward. Okay. I'm hoping you're seeing slide 9 with, I'm just getting a blank screen.
Yeah, it's currently showing slide 9 right now, Neil.
It is, which is the architecture, the architecture diagram. Okay, you're going to have to give me a second while I bring this up. Oh, I've got it. It's appeared. Okay. All right. So this is the HANA Data Management Suite. In the center, in the box in the center, you can see that there's 5 major capabilities. In-memory transaction and analytics, that comes from SAP HANA, obviously. Data discovery and governance, which is initiated by Enterprise Architecture Designer. This is the latest incantation of Power Designer, and it can handle metadata. It can also handle business processes as well, UDM modeling and all that good stuff. But primarily, we're focused on the metadata management, the data discovery capabilities. And then Data Hub helps with the governance, orchestration, integration. And Data Hub is an umbrella term that includes EIM in this particular diagram. So it's helping with the cleansing and enrichment. And then lastly, we've got sort of supplying with the HANA Data Management Suite, cloud-based data lake. And this is the cold storage option, or the data lake option for the HANA Data Management Suite. So HANA will provide the hot and warm layers with in-memory and dynamic tiering. And the cold layer, or the data lake layer, will be from Cloud Platform Big Data Services. Okay, so that's the core, the products, and the capabilities. On the left and the right, we're showing the openness. So we are able to interact with third-party services and products, Spark, Hadoop, third-party databases such as Oracle, Microsoft, and so on, and third-party data management such as Kafka streaming, or if customers already have their existing EIM or Informatica or something like that, we intend to be able to integrate into those environments. On the right-hand side, you can see that we've got the enrichment services from SAP, the spatial services. Now, the spatial and streaming here, and EIM, these are sort of built into HANA and Data Hub. So firstly, we're calling them out, but secondly, you don't get the whole spatial package just by buying HANA or the HANA Data Management Suite. There's some extra services that we're announcing. I believe we're announcing them next week, and they have already announced them with Esri, that allow us to do some things, not just handling spatial data, but providing the data itself, the services there. So at any rate, the big idea is we've got a richer set of products that can be bolted on as required to the HANA Data Management Suite within SAP. At the bottom, you can see we've shown some examples of data sources, types of data that we can work with, and then reiterating the fact that we run on-premise, hybrid, or in the cloud. So a question that comes up, Jenny, tell me when you can see slide 10, because I'm getting severe lag at the moment. The question that comes up is, what can SAP, what can the HANA Data Management Suite do today, and you know, where is it going in the future? So today, it's going to, the ability to bring these products together can deliver some valuable features. So it's a case of 1 + 1 equals 3. You know, we've got a complete development platform for analytics and real-time transactions. We're bringing together HANA, Data Hub, and so on. We've got data governance, optimization. Bringing in EA Designer gives us this modeling across business data and technology, and we can do multi-model analytics and data processing. So there's a bunch of capabilities that that customers will see today by bringing together the existing SAP technologies. However, the real value here is the investment in the future, and there's 4 areas where we're investing, and we have a roadmap for this, and Laurie has a draft of it that will be ready for public consumption in the next few weeks, I understand. But the 4 themes of the future are unifying the user interface experience and blending so that the look and feel of the different products becomes very similar, so that you feel like you're in a single environment as you move through the HDMS. Common metadata catalog. If you think about concepts of logical data warehouse, or Gartner, Forrester call it data fabric, you've got this concept where you don't centralize the data, you just know where it is, and you can create a logical, single, addressable, queryable data space. It's the same with metadata as well. For very good reasons, you can't centralize the metadata, and this, you need to leave the metadata close to the engines where it's acting. And sometimes those metadata engines are the gold copy of that metadata. So, you know, that's just a fact of life we have to deal with. However, what you can do is you can create single metadata view across your whole enterprise. And we're going to continue to invest in that metadata cataloging capability. As I said earlier, you can't secure data you don't know exists or you don't know what it looks like. This metadata catalog capability is coming up again and again when we talk to CIOs and influencers as key. We want to make this seamless as cloud experience as possible. Laurie's going to probably shout at me after this call, but my vision for this is that you can provision on-premise in your choice of cloud almost with the push of a button, and you can create in the future. You can create a single data management environment that exists on-premise and in the cloud and interacts and shares workloads and so on. That's a future we're investing in, but it's a future that customers articulate that where they want to go. And then lastly, we want to do a couple of things around AI. One is the self-tuning engines. So think of a car, it's great if the car can tune itself and make sure it's running at peak efficiency. And that is a very valuable goal, very valuable capability to deliver to customers. But we want to go one further than that. One of the differentiators, again, that came up was the fact that SAP actually understands the data. It doesn't understand just how to manage the data, it actually understands the semantics, the content of the data. So if we stick with our car analogy, our competitors are making a lot of hay out of the fact that they can tweak the engine and make it run a little bit more efficiently. That's great, but if you're the driver of the car and you've got AI that can help you go, can give you directions, can tell you where the nearest restaurants are and whether there's seating availability at them, and tell you about accidents and so on to avoid, that's the artificial intelligence that really adds value. And think of that analogy as where we want to invest in. That differentiates us, and it's unique to us. Okay, so the three pillars, messaging pillars for the HANA Data Management Suite are trusted data. I'm hoping you can see the slide. Connected, intelligent data, and cloud and architecture flexibility. And so we're making sure your data's, you can trust it, that you've got all of it, and it's in a format you can make decisions with. And for the IT department, you've got the flexibility to create the next generation of data landscape. So how are we taking this to market? Well, we've got three major sales plays. These come from working with our sales team, and these should be familiar with you because these were launched at EFCOM. The first is data framework, which is a strategic play. This is where we're talking to customers who want to invest in the HANA Data Management Suite as a concept, as a complete solution. They want to, in the same way some of them talk about we're an SAP shop for our applications, we want them to talk about we're an SAP shop for our data. So where the HANA Data Management Suite is the strategic future for data in those organizations. Not all organizations are going to make that first step in 2018 or 2019. So we've got a more tactical approach where we can deliver tactical solutions to the market. We're building out dozens of use cases per industry. I think we're up to about 12 of the 25, and we've got decks with multiple use cases, customer examples, so on how HANA and Data Hub and the HDMS technologies can add value straight out the box. So we can solve tactical business problems, deliver value, but we can get a footprint for the HANA Data Management Suite to land and expand. And then lastly, it probably comes as no surprise to anybody in this call, the EIM products, the governance capabilities are in a lot of demand at the moment. This concern about trusting your data, governing your data, security, and so on, this is an issue that is important. And again, like the data insights play. We want to get HDMS technology, get a footprint in these organizations so that we can upsell them to the bigger, more strategic picture, for all the while making money in the short term. So with that, I'm going to open this up for questions. I think we've got some questions already, and I think I've got a feeling that Laurie has been answering them in the background, but I'm afraid my machine has frozen on 24th, and it's frozen, so I can't maybe see all the questions. So Jenny, other questions from the audience? Or are you going to open up the lines so they can ask? Or are they going to ever put questions into the Q&A box?
Yeah, so if you have a question for Neil and Laurie, please submit them in the Q&A box on the top right corner of your screen. We do have some questions in the Q&A box right now. So first one is, if customers have to date not been able to make their data into trusted, reliable data, and most haven't, how is it that all of a sudden going to happen with the Data Management Suite?
Well, I don't think it's just going to happen all of a sudden. If they don't have trusted data, that's a problem that's been probably building for a long time in the customer. What we're saying is that you need a strategic enterprise-wide approach to building confidence in your data, that you need to be able to ensure that you've got a complete data set, that you've got tools that can help with deduplication and so on. But the big idea here is that you've got to have enterprise scale solution to this problem. You can clean data up tactically in individual data sources, but if the biggest challenge most organizations have is not cleaning one table in one database. The biggest challenge is the data getting out of sync, that you've got two data sources that they're not identical, but they overlap, and the data in that overlap is inconsistent. I did many years working in financial services, real-time analytics, and this is what drove everybody bananas. Singapore's version of the transactions would differ from New York's, and they'd spend 3 days trying to find $10 million or $20 million. So, it's that type of challenge of trust in the data that you have to have a complete solution for. So, Laurie, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I agree. My first impression on the question is it's not just about technology, it's also about business processes. And so the suite provides a tool set that provides better transparency into the business processes, the data that's in movement, the data that's at rest, documentation elements, but it also needs to be incorporated into your own corporate business processes. It's not like all of a sudden you implement a new tool and boom, everything is trusted and integrated. There's an effort and an implementation behind that, and it's not just about the technology, it's also about changing the processes that the company's leveraging. So I completely agree with what you're saying, Neil.
Thanks. Okay, Jenny, do we have...
Okay, the next question we have, can data management do active and passive data management?
Hey, Laurie, you're up.
I would actually like a clarification on the question to make sure that, are we talking about real-time versus batch, or what is your definition of active versus passive, so we make sure we address the proper question?
Okay, we'll see if Ronnie.
Because if the question is around real-time as well as batch, absolutely, we can support both types of processes. We can apply, different types of analytics and data enrichment on real-time data as it's being consumed. We can do it to streaming data. We can also do it in a batch process. So we can do ELT and ETL. So depending on, what your use case is, there's a bunch of variety of configuration and transformations that you can use to massage and orchestrate the data throughout the pipeline.
All right. Any other questions, Jenny?
No new questions have come in. Again, if you have any questions for Neil and Lori, please submit them in the Q&A box. Okay, we have, so Ronnie, adding on to the question, Active is using rules to ensure users create it correctly.
As in master data management, I'll have to get back to you on that one. I know we do support rules, but rules are often in the movement of the data, so I need to come back and see if we can implement rules that prevent a user from continuing a transaction or something if it doesn't meet a specific criteria or threshold. I know there is functionality like that in the SAP suite, but let me confirm which product that is and if it's part of HDMS before I state on that, because it might be part of the master data management piece. So I will have to follow up with you on email, and we can share the answer broadly. I don't want to misanswer that.
Okay. And let's see. Next question. What's exactly new with Data Management Suite? HANA, Data Hub, Power Designer, etc. have been around for a while.
Yes.
Correct. So the individual components have been existing for a while. However, what's new with the suite is a couple of different things. One is the integration of these components by design. Having, for example, some of the things that you'll see on the roadmap is having a common single sign-on between the tools, having a common design elements for the UI, so the user experience is there. So right now, each of the tools by themselves is kind of like a best-of-breed approach, and then you bring them together and you integrate them. So having an integrated by design framework combined with adding the business context and content and other elements to the individual components by themselves, bringing them together so that they're smoothly integrated from an end-to-end flow, and then adding that business context to the mix creates a unique value. It's not a brand new product. It's we're not even calling it a product. We call it a suite, right? It's a solution, and it's going to be, from a roadmap perspective, you'll see it become more and more tightly integrated. Also, the hybrid on-prem and in the cloud. So for each of these different components, other than Big Data Services, which is a cloud-only offering, you're going to see an on-premise offering. You also see, this is under NDA, as a service offerings and integration between the on-prem and the as a service for that smooth hybrid piece that then supports our multi-cloud approach. So it's really around the synergies between those and that integrated engineering and the cloud to on-prem hybrid approach to managing the data in an end-to-end solution is what you see as new versus everything being standalone, independent, and then create your own project is what you want to do with it. You'd still miss some of those value pieces. Regarding another question, it's how is the cloud versus on-premise being addressed, with many features to come on-premise first, but SAP is cloud first. Actually, that is kind of flipped. So even in the HANA, again, this is a confidential NDA discussion, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so so one of the things that you'll see is the new HANA service that's coming, and the way that the code line works is it's actually a similar code line to what we use for on-prem, but we'll have monthly updates, right, to, or whatever the cadence is going to be, to the cloud first piece, and then those get summed up to become the next on-prem update. So we've already started having the engineering in the cloud first, and then that gets consumed up and then updates to the on-prem. So we already have that approach. And in a lot of these integrated pieces, you know, the on-prem products are rather mature to a certain degree, depending on which one you're talking about. But we'll be having the integration between the cloud-based products be a high priority, make sure that's working, and then also tap back into the on-prem. So that definitely is, you know, from a prioritization of engineering resources, making sure that we have the cloud first piece moving really smoothly, and then moving those into the on-prem ships, which have only an annual release cycle. The other question is, can we comment on the role of business objects data services in the HDMS service? So yes, so the role for big data services, business objects data services, my bad. So actually, data services is not part of the original BOM. So the role that it has is in the BOM, the bill of materials of the suite, we have the core data hub, the HANA, which includes the SDI, SDQ. We have the data services, the Hadoop data lake, and the EAD. Now, Data Hub itself, if you look at its roadmap and its, you know, engineering piece, it has some EIM capabilities already embedded in it, and those EIM capabilities are growing. What's included in the core suite is the Data Hub plus the EIM capabilities that are embedded in the Data Hub. Now, other products like data services, information steward, master data governance, those types of products that are in the EIM portfolio can be added to your suite implementation as add-ons, so that you can, like, let's say you have a capability that you need that's not in that core feature set of Data Hub, you can absolutely integrate it with. It's just not considered part of the core integrated components out of the box, right? So it does have a role more as a add-on view until the Data Hub roadmap encompasses all those capabilities, if it gets to that point. What does that mean in reality? The whole reality is, if you're looking at the 4 components of the HANA Data Management Suite, when we're looking at because it really comes down to where are we investing our engineering resources, right? So we're going to be engineering to make sure those first 4 components are smoothly interoperable, the multi-tenancy is working really well, the end-to-end execution is in place, the user experience has a common look and feel, the security, pass tokens and authentication pieces, you know, work smoothly from end to end, that the catalog is centralized, and that you have nice interoperability between those 4. Those are our priorities. Then, of course, you can also integrate with the services and with the other EIM components or other products that are out there. But when we come to, you know, where are we really heavily focusing on that core integration, it's on these 4 pieces. So it's not like none of the other capabilities that we have within the DDM suite is relevant. It just means from an engineering and focus perspective, these are our 4 key components that have highest priority from that integration perspective. And then others, of course, can integrate, you know, based on current integration, or, you know, if we identify other gaps, of course, we'll be looking at those. So I hope that clarifies the nuance there between what are in the 4 pillars of the HDMS, so to speak, versus the surrounding ecosystem around HDMS that also can come into play.
So we do not have any more questions coming in. I just want to take this opportunity to thank Lori and Neil for your time and for the great presentation today. Looking forward to the official announcement of Sapphire. Again, today's session will be posted on the HANA IFG community along with a PDF of the presentation. Just want to thank everyone for your time, and we will end the session now. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Laurie.